Hello, everyone. I'm Avella Spiritu. I'm with Red 5, and I'll be facilitating your session today. Some housekeeping. I'll be muting everyone during our presentation. So when we do have people talking back, because we're going to solicit your feedback, don't forget to unmute yourself, especially during our Q&A, which will be at the end of the session. And again, just a reminder, we will be recording the session for those that couldn't make it today. And if you wanted to view it again later, we'll be posting it live onto our YouTube page probably this weekend. So I'm a part of a committee of volunteers that run the Edmonton Lean Community of Practice, affectionately known as Lean-YEG. We host a Lean Coffee session on the third Friday of every month from September through June from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m.-ish. Sometime soon we'll be on location again, but for now, the next couple sessions, we're going to be virtual. At our events, Lean practitioners, we meet to discuss and learn about our favorite topic, Lean in our community. Sometimes we have a structured agenda list, yet fun and laughter-filled conversation on Lean. And today is the first session of our 22-23 season, and we're so excited to introduce what I call the new kids on the block for Lean in the built industry, the Lean Design and Construction Canada, the LDCC. Intends to provide meaningful value and support across the entire construction ecosystem. Now today, we have Carla Sipliski with the LDCC, who will be sharing the current thinking of the LDC's work, including their value proposition, their membership structure, and other key development work to date. And in this session, the Edmonton COP can provide direct input in refining the LDC's value proposition moving forward. So while Carla works with the LDC by night, by day, she plays a vital role within Collier's project leaders, and she can also share some Lean insights from the owner community. And so during the presentation, feel free again to post questions on the Miro board, which is in the chat. And without further ado, it's my pleasure to present to the Edmonton Lean Community of Practice your speaker for today, Carla Sipliski. On to you, Carla.
Great. Well, thank you very much for the introduction. And I prefer to think of today less about a presentation and more about a bit of a conversation. I'm really excited to be able to talk with your community practice and introduce this Lean Design and Construction Canada, or LDCC, and share a few other thoughts connected and important and relevant for our Lean community. So I'm going to just share my screen, make sure that I can share my screen. And by the way, I'm more of a Backstreet Boys fan than a New Kids on the Block, just for the record, but anxious to share. So our Lean Design and Construction Canada, this is a new organization that's been formed as a not-for-profit, an independent not-for-profit this past summer. I'm going to go through a bit of what we're all about and who's a part of this, including someone else who's in the room here today. And so I'm just going to run through. If there's any questions, please make sure you capture them for yourself, and anxious to hear the questions towards the end, and input as well, and reactions to everything that I'm going to be sharing here today. This is very much a community effort, as we've been discussing for the last year, an evolution of Lean Construction Institute Canada that was formed back in 2015, that the Canadian Construction Association has been supporting. This is not in contrary to, but this is in evolution and building upon that starting point in that platform. So our mission for this group is to provide leadership and insight in the adoption and advancement of Lean for our industry, more inclusive and more involving the planning from our owners, the design with our architectural and engineering parties in our supply chain, as well as construction and manufacturing, straight through to asset management back to our owners. So we have a broader mission than what we've perhaps approached lean construction as in Canada specifically. And this is really exciting for us because it's actually in keeping with some of the other direction in the globe and in other countries as they have expanded as well, and ensured a more broad ecosystem-wide view of lean adoption. So we have a website there and a QR code that you can connect to that has our starting information on it. And this conversation's been going on for quite a while as Canada's been, moving through the evolution of Lean. And there's a number of players that came together, and the folks on the list on the left representing the organizations on the right. All of us are alphabetical. We kind of drop our names and companies at the door and focus on how can we explore this better for our industry. So Brian McEachern, who's also on the call here, is part of our founding board of directors, and he can jump in and add to whatever I'm saying, and as if he would like as well. Brian's got, as all of the founding board directors do, have great input, insight, and experience to the journey that we seek going forward. So that's the group that came together and said, we're going to do something a little bit different here, and we've been evaluating what the needs are of the community. So I'd like to share kind of what we believe our current state needs are. First of all, we believe that we need a more inclusive and unifying body on Lean that has a primary mission and focus of this thing that we call Lean for our industry. There is a lot moving in the commercial space with collaborative contract development and IPDA and all those kinds of good things. There's a lot moving in the technology space with CanBIM, now called Building Transformations, doing amazing things on both fronts. And our group is not meant to counter that or be different than that. We want to help integrate and advance this space together. And so we don't mean to be divisive. We have enough competition inside our regions, inside our industry. This is about inclusivity and unification and nonpartisan and agnostic and all those kinds of things. So that's what our group is passionate about. We really want to increase the level of conversations that are going on with our owner community, as well as really explore and dig into Lean and design and have this operate in flow as we want, as our mission is in Lean. To do that, we really need to engage everybody in a different kind of a way. There's also many training requests that are going unanswered on a number of fronts from all players, including owners, as I am in a lot of those conversations today, and we'll share more in a bit. Also, we have COPs that are active across the country, but we're very disconnected, fragmented on our own kind of islands. I'm part of the Calgary COP. There's an active Vancouver COP. There's one in the general Toronto area, and there's some pockets of collections of people elsewhere. But we have an opportunity to have a national conversation. And so we really want to advance how that operates, how that works, and support the COBs. This is all volunteer efforts that are going on for these conversations in our communities of practice. And it takes time and it takes effort, and we need to make that easier so we can continue the mission forward. We really want to engage with the global Lean community, as I mentioned. Lean Construction Institute in the US is one of the known recognized initial bodies of knowledge and bodies that have advanced this. There's also International Group for Lean Construction. That organization is more academic focused, but they had a conference here in Edmonton, first conference in Canada since their 30-year journey and since their inception back in 1992. And that really has opened our eyes as to all the other possibilities. Since then, we've been in contact with other countries who have developed their own LDCC equivalent for their organizations as they've realized, especially the smaller countries, as they've realized the need to really expand the conversation in the ecosystem as well. So we're anxious to engage and tie in. There's other training, there's other learnings that are moving in that way, and we need to be able to work together and tap into that as part of shared practice and advance our practices together. There's still misconceptions about Lean. Lean, the term itself, doesn't do anybody any favors. It's an English connotation word that means to skinny, to get less, and that also is tied to our manufacturing birthplace, which is tied to the Toyota production system. And what the learning is that has evolved with Lean over the last 20 years is that this is more of a philosophy and mindset, and it is about the total business system connected to Toyota Way and how they were first and foremost engaged in quality with Deming and built a system around delighting customers and maximizing value. Waste elimination is subservient to that concept. And that's a really important one for our industry as we're all in our own companies coming together to build together. So we need to address some of those misconceptions. We need to address the misconceptions of Lean as just a toolbox. It is a philosophy and mindset. It is a business system. There are techniques and tools, and there's a lot of wealth here to really help build the capability across what we're doing in our project delivery space and inside our organizations. We also want to connect the dots. with other supporting groups. I already mentioned IPDA and Building Transformation Group. There's industry associations, obviously for our construction groups that are well known, but as well for our architectural friends and engineering groups and consulting engineers across both provincial and federal bodies. So we want to tie in there. We've also got some ownership organizations, and there's just a way that we believe we can bring the conversation together better. So with all of those needs in mind and exploring some of the paradigm shifts that we believe are happening today, we think that there's a conversation that has advanced faster through this pandemic times and through these supply chain challenges that we're all experiencing on our projects, that there's a paradigm shift awareness that the fragmentation and scopes of work and how that's organized is not serving us well. And so we want to explore more synergistic, more flow-oriented thinking and reduce some of those boundaries, barriers, silos to be able to allow operating systems that create flow, maximizing value in flow, the true lean principles. So that's one sort of aspect of a paradigm shift. Another aspect that really causes us to really dig into and cause our group to back up and go, we really need to have design in this conversation differently, is the paradigm shift around how we do design today. This slide I borrowed from Ali Grande, who's also on our founding board of directors from Group 2. And so I just quoted her, slapped her slides up directly. She says, design is broken. We've got misunderstandings of value that's going on, and our process is based fundamentally on rework on the design side. There's an opportunity there. We've got misalignments with budget. We design and then estimate, provide an estimate for that design when we need to be designing to an estimate. And so that whole practice, that operating system around target value delivery, design and delivery, which has its basis again from the Toyota way, target value costing, all of that is an opportunity for us. We have unreliable commitments because of the nature of how all this occurs, and our works, again, are completed in silos. So our processes in design, where we usually look at it as it's a bunch of stuff that's creatively going on in a box, there's a process there. There's ways we can work through and collaborate efficiently and effectively there, and Lean can really help with that. So that's another key lens of our paradigm shift. And then to really punctuate this from an owner's perspective and coming from Colliers. And by the way, I only joined Colliers in November of this past year. Before that, I've been a lean coach independently for 14 going on 15 years, working with a number of players in the supply chain, including owners. So I coach owners directly on the implementation of lean and in project delivery, supporting capital project management as well. So part of what we see occurring on the owner side is a new set of conversations, and it's emergent. It's still exploratory. It's not the same in every region. It's not the same with every player. But in our public sector, there's more and more of this discussion. Procurement conversations are shifting. More collaborative delivery is desired. There's an understanding that, yeah, design needs to be more inclusive of construction because here's where the costs are. And so if we can figure out how to build better and build that into design, here we go. We've got opportunities uncovered on the front end. We can still, the supply chain challenges are what everybody's wrestling with. And we need to be able to integrate availability and adapt and adjust our design to suit what's going on there and leverage all those productivity and production efficiencies throughout to make sure that we have materials arriving on time, to make sure we have what we need to supply the flow and value of construction in the field. We have a proactive movement going on in project management. And this is also evidenced by Project Management Institute and the recent PMBOK Project Management Body of Knowledge rewrite that occurred just last year. It is focused more on tailoring, more on principle-based, more on leading indicators, and less on lagging project controls and reporting. So there's a whole shift that's going on there. And last but not least, there's an awareness emerging on how can we prevent rework and waste, the cost of every RFI, how can we design to a budget? How can we get more of this value built into our design more deeply instead of value engineering, which to an owner ultimately means we're taking out scope. And so the owners are creating a different demand for this kind of newer way of building, and it is encapsulated in both integrated project delivery, embracing BIM BIM strategies and BIM implementation, and including lean thinking. So it's all of that that is moving. So our team looks at this work as part of a framework. So Lean Design and Construction Canada, we want to really allow ourselves to support this ecosystem, this movement from inside out. We're a bit of the glue. We see ourselves as coming into this space and helping support capability building. This triangle represents the different parts that are moving, and some call it the hat trick in Canada, that if you get the commercial side moving in a more collaborative direction on the continuum, if operationally you're moving towards more lean operating systems and practices, and as an organization, if you're embracing that philosophy and mindset and that culture relationally of how we work together, those things are part of the hat trick, and BIM is in there as well. So we really are exploring this framework as a team and building that into what our value proposition is. So we want this integrated in the industry. We recognize it needs to be building focused. We do know that it needs to be contract agnostic. It's not just about IPD. It is about how we behave in how we do work in our built environment. And yeah, there's limitations based on the contracts, but it is contract agnostic still. And so we want to explore that further. This is very much about people-centric. We're in a people business. And that's what's really important as part of our lean works, as the center core tenet is about respect for people in the studying in the aftermath of Toyota Way, respect for people and continuous improvement. So we really want to bolster all of that. As part of those principles, the Toyota Way principles look a little different than this, but what I respect and want to honor out of some of the original works out of the Lean Construction Institute in the US is the interpretation of the lean tenets, which is, I think, very important for us in our industry, as they were articulated in a manner to cause us to think about breaking down our silos and barriers. So it is about optimizing the whole. It's absolutely about the generation of value and focus on process and flow. And yes, we're removing waste and we're continuously improving, and respect for people is center and core to all of that, as we're working between different parties that don't even talk the same language sometimes. So I think there's a lot of work to be done that we can really support to make this come alive for us in our Canadian ecosystem. So our primary objectives here are these four coming out of the gate, excuse me. We recognize there's amazing conversations and discussions and some study action groups and already work going on with the COPs already in our nation. And we want to be able to support that. This is a regional business. The work is occurring regionally, and we want to be able to support those regional areas and those conversations throughout. So that's number one. For us. Second, we want to be able to create different connections to advance education. There's a wealth of knowledge that we can tap into. We don't necessarily want to create a bunch of new material, but we will be filling in where there are gaps. We need to have access to all the material for our communities. And so we want to make sure we've got all those connections. And that ranges from not just Lean Construction Institute, but what's going on with the Lean Construction blog. We're tying in there. Like I said, we're tying into the international conversation. There's lots going on in the design space. The owner community is starting to wake up and engage in this discussion as well. So I want to tie everybody together and connect. The third, we want to provide opportunities to connect industry and academia. There's a lot of fantastic, amazing research and work that we can borrow from and we can implement. Some directly, some requires interpretation, but there's innovative advancements going on everywhere. And we need to be able to tie into that better and make it easier to tie in. And so that brings us to the fourth point, is there's an advocacy that's needed here to support companies in the adoption and growth of lean. And also that means raising awareness and, again, dealing with the misconceptions. So that is this group's primary objectives. We have some value proposition elements that we've been exploring and looking at. And we have received some feedback already from some of the work that we've been doing. And we really view this entire organization as it's being built by our community. So we have ideas around what we want to do, and they are all based on focusing on our customers, true to lean. It's the lens we look through. So we have some different customer groups, some different stakeholder groups that are part of this that we want to really understand more from. So we've been reaching out. We're reaching out here as well in this conversation today and other conversations, and anxious to hear from you on some of what our thoughts are and what you want to see from a group that is focused in this direction. So anyway, I'll let you just kind of scan through that. By the way, I will provide a copy of this presentation so everybody can take this away and think on it further as well. Very busy slide. Not going to go through all the details, but here's some of the value categories we've been looking at. So I'll just start with the one on the left. In terms of education and learning, as I mentioned, we want to connect people together with relevant opportunities to them. And that means something different for our owners as they're trying to understand what Lean means for their work in the ecosystem, as it does for architects who are coming in a different spot than contractors, than our general contractors, than our trade partners, than our engineers who are brought in. Everyone's coming in a slightly different spot and needs some interpretation to connect with their work. And that's really the integrated magic we want to bring to the table. So we want to be able to deal with the what's in it for me conversation and connect people with relevant topics. Part of that's going to mean we want to curate a library of relevant resources. And that includes consultants and coaches as well. We've got a wealth of knowledge in Canada around us to be able to draw from and pull into supporting what we're doing. So there's a few other things in educational learning there. In terms of activities and events, we do want to hold conferences, but we want to be very pragmatic about what we do. It's not cheap to go from end to end in our country. And so we want to be more regionally focused in what our events would look like, and also really leverage our virtual spaces. And there's so much that we can advance there, again, tying in folks from around the globe. So we have a lot of appetite to look at those kinds of things. There's interest in an owners forum and pulling in different owners in the community. I'm in the center of that particular conversation, coming from Colliers project leaders, and there's many in our public sector, which represents the larger, vast majority of what we build in this country. There's interest in understanding each other and what is happening there, and how do we be better owners for our projects. Believe it or not, that conversation is going on in a number of circles, and so we want to help that come alive. In terms of advocacy and promotion, there's lots of different realms there that we need to integrate and connect with different associations, different groups. And then again, what's most important for us, definitely not last but not least, is our members that we intend to support, and it's central around our COP groups. So that's really the center pin for us, is what do the COPs want to leverage for activities? How can we best support those COP conversations? How can we have online sharing and learning platforms? How can we have study action groups that go beyond any one region to really tie in and learn from? So what can those problem-solving circles and other connected conversations look like? So these are some of the things we're talking about. Our website, we intend to expand and provide a home and a place for everybody. We intend to provide support and help for even advertising and marketing across our country as well. Lots of different ideas there. Really anxious to hear if there's any additional ones from this group. Advancing my computer here. A bit about our organization itself, as we are in the middle of designing it right now. This is not for profit. It is intentionally independent. And we really want to be a body that can serve the owners and architects and engineers and our GCs and our trade partners in this journey. And everybody's in a different spot, in a different place, and needs some slightly all different support, but we're all coming together on our project delivery. So we're intentionally independent so that we can explore all those avenues really thoroughly. We want to be very pragmatic in our organizational design. So we're not setting up a hierarchical architecture of a company, a not-for-profit company, without first understanding the value proposition and what really pragmatically can meet those needs. There's going to be some kind of staffing. We have a not-for-profit sustainability plan that we need to deliver on. And so we're going to be balancing that off and ensuring that we have clarity on what the volunteer contribution looks like. We have to operationally provide subject matter expertise and help support this. And so we're just figuring out how all that comes together. We will be asking for membership, and we have a membership structure I'll be sharing shortly. So there'll be revenue from that, events and sponsorship we're going to need to have to make sure this can be a sustainable conversation that really does provide consistent value. We have a board of direction, a board that will be providing direction and accountable to members. We're currently a founding board. We will be moving into more of an ongoing operational board in the future. And so we've got about a 12 to 18 month journey ahead of us to get to that point. There'll be members, that'll be a voting process to decide on that board and some other mechanics that are, again, part of that not-for-profit appropriate bylaw and policy driven world. I already mentioned our events are going to be more regionally focused, and we want to have national presence and all those other kinds of good things. And we want to leverage synergy. So we don't want to create something that's already existing. We want to fill in and support and be integrated and advance this discussion. So the organizational design is in progress, no different than target value design. We're exploring that alongside the different requirements and needs, which we're hoping to hear from our community. Some of how we're thinking about the membership structure, to give you a bit of a picture, is no different than some others that are similar to us. There's a corporate membership we'll be looking at that's relevant by size, as we have quite a diversity across Canada. And we're trying to figure out how to keep it simple, but yet supportive of all the different players in the supply chain. So we're working through that right now. As we also want to attract our owners, and we're trying to figure out what that needs to look like. And we have some value proposition thoughts around that. We also will be tying in academic institutions, and they have a lot of research projects that they were trying to connect and promote and share and engage for those that are interested. And educators are trying to figure out how to tie in this conversation better with industry into their educational practice as well. As I mentioned before, we have lean coaches and consultants, a variety of vendors and other organizations that range from technology to other support in strategic HR and capability building for people-centric kind of work. And there's lots there. And so we're exploring discussions as well on that's part of our community, and how do we be inclusive of that and welcoming of all of that wealth of knowledge there, and tie that into our membership structure and our work. And then last but not least, as individuals, if your organization is a part of this, you'd already be have access as a free member. And if you'd like to join and your organization's not joining, we've got a way for that, an avenue for that as well. And we have some conversations going on regarding students. So that's a bit about our membership structure, just to give you a flavor of how the framework and how this is taking shape. And that really kind of punctuates our intentions. That's I'm trying to summarize here, but we're really trying to design and build, set up for that design and build better in Canada. We've got an infrastructure deficit in our country, which means we've got more money than we have capability to build, and planning and time to build. So we've got to figure out how to do some things differently. We really want to ensure unity and have a nonpartisan approach. That's very, very important to us. I think there's been quite a journey that we've already been on, and I think divisive conversation doesn't necessarily serve our Canadian platform well. And so we want to figure out how to help that move forward a bit differently and be more of an integrator for the total ecosystem. So those are some of our intentions, as obviously we're a national body, and we really want to set up and structure to deliver value and grow together. So this is really it takes a village, it takes a community to build. We're in that building process right now, and we're interested in hearing feedback of all kinds. So that's what I had to share today. I would actually invite Brian McEachern if he would like to say anything, not to put him on the spot, but this is a nice intimate fireside chat group. So if Brian wants to add anything else into the mix, especially particular to COPs, go for it, Brian.
No, you kind of covered off pretty much everything. Maybe my question that I threw onto the mural board might be more like planting a question, I guess. But I think one of the questions that have come up specifically in this group is how LDCC is going to support the COPs a little bit more specifically. So, I can talk a little bit about it right now, or we can address it in the questions. But in talking to some of the people that are working with the COPs and running the COPs, that's a big question, and that has really become, as Carla showed, in our kind of 4 main objectives and things that we're trying to support. That's why the COPs is, it's not number 1 just because that was the first thing on the slide. It's kind of, we understand that there's a grassroots level of communities of practice around the country that we need to support and we need to provide value to so that the COPs can continue to thrive. The ones that already exist and build up the ones that are maybe not, as regular as say ours is having, and same with Calgary having things every month. So really, and that's kind of where I've come as part of the group. I've kind of tried to focus a little bit more on ensuring that we're supporting our local communities of practice, because that's where we're getting a lot of good stuff happening. And we need to be able to figure out a way to share that with, more than just what's going on in your community and our community. So from the COP perspective, that's maybe where I would add a little bit to it, where it is a main focus of what we've been trying to do. There's another question in there that I'm sure we're going to get to, and we'll just save that one until the question period, and one of us can answer that, and Carla's probably going to point it my way anyway. So, but
Brian, for the group's knowledge, Brian's really been the central liaison and communicator link between the other COPs. As I mentioned, we have active ones across the country. I think I forgot to mention Montreal has some activity going on as well. But there's others that have been in various stages since 2015, and just with varying levels of energy and volunteer support that's needed or kind of been dispersed. So we're just really anxious to grow and nurture those grassroots conversations. So I guess we are directing ourselves to the Miro board, and I might ask Val to kind of help us get refocused there. I'm a firm believer in lean coffee style engagement, so having visual questions and being able to navigate that is great. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And I'd like to, ask, I mean, everyone can put whatever questions they've got on the board, but if there's ideas as well over what we can explore as part of this, our LDCC value proposition, really interested to hear that kind of feedback as well. So Val, if I can direct it to yourself, or I guess this group, this is a well-seasoned group, I'm sure, on Lean Coffee, hey? I see folks on the board already.
Yeah, some of us have been there before. Well, thank you, Carla, for sharing with the Lean-YEG. And one of my key takeaways from your particular presentation is that it's vital that the entire ecosystem collaborates together on this. It's not just one particular pie. It's got to be the owners, the design group, the construction group, and the procurement all working together as one thing. I think that's something that's unique with the LDCC that it brings, that's different from some of the other organization and groups that are out there. So I think this is a really interesting opportunity that you guys have formed together. So I'm looking forward to it. So before we get into questions and answers, our next Lean Coffee is Friday, October 21st. So please save the date. It's going to be a really, really good one. And join our LinkedIn page to learn about next upcoming topics. As we kick into the new 22-23 season, and I'll put links into the chat for our LinkedIn page here. And as well, we will be posting the recordings for this in our YouTube page as well too. So go on there. There's a whole bunch of other different videos that that you can review and peruse at your leisure for going all the way back to when we started doing videos, and there's some really, really, really cool ones. Okay, so we'll go into the Q&A. Please post your questions using the Miro board, and I'm going to try something here, and let's see if we can share it this way on Teams. So you can go onto a browser, or I can throw it here into Teams as well too. But we're going to go into Miro board. We're going to start to create questions as you are, just to start making Kanban cards or cards with questions or comments or whatnot. If we get a lot, we'll start to vote them here. But I'll give you guys, even as I'm talking here, you can start to create Kanban questions. But we're going to vote these puppies through. So I'll put a voting session on. and you can join the voting session, and then you'll be able to click the radio button and vote on the questions that you want us to answer first. You'll get 3 votes. You can stack your votes on one particular topic, or you can spread them around. It depends on how you want it, but we'll have it there for 2 minutes. And then once that's there, we will take the one with the highest votes, and we'll talk them through, and we'll have Carla and Brian answer them out. Or if someone else here in the group could also speak to that as well. And we'll keep doing that as we go along until we go through all of our questions, or we run out of time. At about 9:50, I will be stopping. We'll do plus deltas, and we'll say, okay, what did you like about the session? Or do you have an aha moment, or a eureka moment, or that was cool? Or delta, was there something that you would like us to see stop or start, or even for the LDC to start or stop doing? And we'll put that on there. And at 10 o'clock, we're going to clap hands, and we will be complete. So on that note, I'm going to put a timer up on the board here. If all of you can, again, go to the Miro board, start to generate questions for Carla and Brian to answer. Put them on the spot. You know, they want to be put on the spot. This is our opportunity to kind of, be there to direct and give the value that our community will get from this organization, because it's an interesting one, and we can help them form where they're going to go moving forward. So I'll put a timer up there for about 2 minutes. And the price of admission is at least 1 Kanban card.
And that's pretty cheap. And that's pretty cheap. So,
Cheap.
there you go. And yeah, any questions?
If you can't go onto the Miro board, feel free to put something in the chat, and one of us will sit there and transfer it to the Miro board and create the Kanban for you. We can help you out there.
Any and all questions. We're not, Carla and I aren't too good at ducking questions, so we're fairly open and honest, and
For sure.
sometimes say more than we should sometimes, but it is what it is.
The only way to be in our lean world is authentic and real and grounded. And so that's what we represent, Brian. Let's say it like that.
Yeah, sounds good.
One of the other cool things too is that, because Carla has had kind of an insight on the owner side of thing, which has always been somewhat a little bit of a gap for the lean construction side of things. If there is a question just on the ownership, with how can we get lean, how can we get owners to adopt lean, or be more open to PDP or IPD projects, that's something as well too. Maybe you can ask Carla that question, because she's here. We don't often get someone who represents the owner side of the pie, so to speak. So there's an opportunity there as well. Okay, so I'm going to put a voting thing up here, and we will vote these, see which one we're going to be talking about first. And again, you will all get 3 votes. You can stack them up on one card, or you can spread them out. Use the radio buttons to vote them in. And I'll give everyone 2 minutes to vote their favorite one through. Please join the voting session, and you'll have an opportunity to vote. And if we're all done voting sooner than that, we don't have to take the whole 2 minutes. We got about 5 of 13 people voted so far, 6. I love how some people like they really go on that last vote. They just don't know where to go. They don't know where to put it.
It's always the hardest one, right? It's like I only got one more.
Yeah.
The
Well,
first
'cause
one's always the easy one.
I can see how many votes are left on people as well too, so that's kind of interesting to see. Almost done. 40 seconds left. No pressure. All right, everyone's voted. I'm going to finish it now. And we'll calculate the results. Okay. So it looks like the first one is, is the LCI-C Canada essentially defunct? That would be the first one. So I'll put 2 minutes up here on the clock there, and we'll let you guys answer that question.
Brian, with your blessing, I'd like to kick it off and have you summarize beautifully.
I knew that question was going to come, and I knew that you were going to do that. So, and I voted for this one as a question as well. So there we go.
Okay.
Are they essentially defunct? The answer is no. And neither of us are part of the CCA, so we don't want to speak for the CCA and what they're doing. So LCI-C is part of the Canadian Construction Association. Are they officially gone? No, the CCA is still planning to use the LCI-C name to do something that they're going to do with lean construction. We're not privy to exactly what they're going to do. They've switched their model, right? So they've gone from this idea of LCI-C being a little organization in a little group within there to now more of a best practice model. So that incorporates lean construction and design build and so on. What I can say is that we've been in contact with the CCA and working with the CCA. So we've met with them 3 different times in the last 9 months in regards to what we're actually doing with this whole thing. Because what we didn't want to do, again, to not have it be, we're not looking to be competitors in any type of space. But what we found as a group was that LCI-C was catering mainly to the CCA members, which from the CCA's perspective, you can understand that, right? They're paying members of the CCA. So, but what they weren't really getting to was the rest of the ecosystem of the project. So of a project or of our industry. So, are they defunct? No. What does that look like for them going forward? Carla and I can't really answer that. But what we have been doing is, like I said, we've talked with them a few times. We talked with them just last month, and what we're doing is we're kind of working together in a bit of a partnership. Isn't really the right word, because we're not partners in this. We're independent of what's going on, but we're working together to make sure that we're not providing ideas and material and things that they also are as well. Now, what they're going to do going forward with membership and all that stuff, again, it's not for us to answer here. But what we have come up with them is an understanding that we're going to provide value to their members and something that they can point their members to if they see value in what we're doing, and working together. So again, not trying to do the same thing twice, but trying to enhance what has been going on with LCI-C.
I'd like to just punctuate a couple things that Brian said. So absolutely no, there's no defunct. There is a reshaping that's going on and a new path that we're forging. I have total respect for what the CCA has done to sponsor and give birth to, if you will, the first LCI-C in Canada that they have sponsored under their umbrella, and that should be respected. And we are just moving forward, as Brian said, in partnership. The CCA is not charging membership dollars for LCI-C uniquely. They are fully supportive of what we're doing. We're fully supportive of what they're doing. We're forging a path going forward, but we will be very ecosystem focused and making sure that we're true to lean in this industry, optimizing the whole and operating holistically with the total system in mind. Sorry, I know the timer went.
That's okay. You guys were answering questions. Is there any particular questions that anyone has about this particular subject? You can speak up. Okay, we'll move on to the next card. The next card was, does LDCC have a priority listing of initiatives and priorities to share with the COPs, and were they vetted through the COPs to support and collaborate?
I would suggest that we're just in that process right now. So we've gotten some of the weigh in and input on some different initiatives that we've shared in a similar fashion to what you saw today. And so we're in the process of gathering those themes. We did a national webinar engagement where we got a bunch of sticky notes and breakout Zoom rooms and groups. We also have a survey that's out right now that I would really encourage everybody to participate in. It's can be found through our LinkedIn page. So we're gathering all of that. We do want to go back and vet and have the next level conversation. So we're in the midst of that at this moment. And some of our COPs have a broad demographic that represents the ecosystem. Some do not. So we are also going to some other areas and associations in our ecosystem to get some other feedback as well.
Awesome. I'll maybe just add one little quick thing, and like I said, I keep coming back to this because this is important for me. Is that this question is exactly what we want to do in order to provide the benefit to the COPs and provide the support to the COPs. So this is going to be an important thing going forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would expect to hear more from us here in October. We're quickly dealing with lots of data we already received from our national webinar engagement session. And we're working through that right now and pairing that up with some other feedback in other areas. Again, we've got a survey active. So in October, we're expecting to communicate back with everybody for another further conversation. Fair, Brian?
Fair.
Hold on. So you said that there's something for people to vote on about
There's
this.
Yes, sorry. There's a survey that
I'll find it, Val, while we're kind of going through this and throw it in the chat.
Perfect. Thanks, Brian. Yeah, just a survey to get some other questions, some other thoughts flushed out from our community, those that weren't able to attend our webinar and engagement session, and really tap into a number of different leaders in various areas inside different organizations across the country. So that's active right now. So we would encourage, please share it around. Please input. We're anxious to see some thoughts through that too.
Awesome. I'm sorry, I was putting the notes on there. Okay, the next question. Is there a strategy for promoting lean in construction to owners?
Yeah, so we're in the midst of developing that strategy right now. I'm in the middle of that conversation right now as part of my role. So as part of Colliers Project Leaders, so as an organization, Colliers has grown as a PM services company, but is transitioning to more of a professional services advisory services company. And IPD advisory and lean advisory and owners advisory is a part of that. So we're engaged in those front-end conversations as the business cases are being finalized for various projects, in discussing what's the best project methodology for this situation, how are we getting ourselves organized so that we can get funding and grant, and how do we want this to go on, what are our intentions, what are our requirements, goals, aspirations, constraints, etc. We're in that conversation, and so we're learning as an owner's representative evolving in this space, in this emerging dialogue, we're learning that there is some different ways to engage in that discussion. And so it's about lean, not focused on waste elimination, which is our classic manufacturing focus, but it is really about maximizing value within the constraints that you have. That was the Toyota Way business system. So if we go back to that broader intention of the Toyota Way, and in keeping with what that bigger picture was as those that were part of that MIT scientist team. That's the original intention. It's not just the Toyota production system. So if we go back there and look at that, that is the language and that's the verbiage and conversation that is really connecting for owners. So, we're talking about what is the procurement strategy that's going to get your best partners to the table? What is the procurement strategy that's going to protect and allow you to navigate and manage risk, which that whole window and picture is changing in our supply chain challenged world right now. So we have a different conversation going on, but I would say it's the strategy has to be central around the messaging of we're maximizing value. Yes, we're eliminating waste, but we're maximizing value from the owner's perspective. Brian, anything to add there?
I think the only really thing to add there is that this has been we and Avel said it earlier in our thing here that it's always hard to get owners to be part of this. That's where we struggle as a lean kind of group, and we're really putting a focus on trying to get owners engaged and be part of this. So
yeah. What I would also say, though, is we've got some individuals scattered in the country who are in fairly significant roles inside owners associations and groups, including Kathleen Lausman, who was one of the original founders of the LCI-C. So we've got horsepower that we're pulling in to advance the discussion and formulate strategies as well.
Nice. We'll get one last question in here before we go to plus deltas. And that is, how will the LDC work with other groups like CCA, LCI, LCI-C, IPDA, and IGLC? And
Yeah,
I'm probably missing one, but
well, there's probably like 4 or 5 others in there.
yeah.
We've got a whole stakeholder universe that we could put up in front of you that has a whole myriad of different names, and some of which we put up in our presentation. But yeah, we need to. Our intention is to work synergistically and figure out where do our what we can provide and what the needs are, where does that intersect? So for IPDA, for example, IPD was the contract type that was formed from the first integrated form of agreement in 2004 to try to enable lean flow of value and all of the intention of what lean should be. That's why that was formed. And so people forget that it is a contract type that was based on the platform of a lean operating system. And so IPDA is also promoting lean and would like to tap into references, tap into a wealth of education and other capability building from our group. And we've been in conversation there. There's an interest there, and we're exploring that. So there's an example in that regard. There's a lot we could talk about for each group. So really our job right now is to understand the needs and to find the intersections and be synergistic together.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is just that we're not trying to be any of those other groups. They're all experts in what they are doing, and we want to work together with them. So, if there's things that we can do working together, then that's what we'll do. And we're going to promote those groups just as we expect that they'll promote us for what we'll be providing.
All right, awesome. On that note, then, we're at 9:55, so I'll leave you the last 5 minutes for everyone. If you can go to the key takeaway section, which I'll bring everyone to me. And if you can generate 1 + 1 delta for LeanYEG and for the LDCC, was there something that you learned today that was really, really awesome? Did you have an aha moment, or eureka, or that was cool? Or delta, is there something you disliked, or you would like us to stop doing or start doing? Especially for the LDCC, this is an opportunity for us to give them the feedback that they're looking for from the community to help them determine and create that value proposition. Is there something that you want them to start doing, or that you think that would, bring value to lean practitioners, at least here in the greater Edmonton area, and for our community of practice here at LeanYEG?
Perfect. I'd also add.
Go ahead, Carla.
Well, I would just also add, we have, there's a lot that has been already started in the construction space. And what we haven't had as much dialogue on, as we've already highlighted, is in the design and pre-construction and those overlapping early entry points to our project delivery. And so I would also ask if there's anyone on the call that's interested in joining us in helping to develop out and flush out how that can work better in what we've been talking about today. We're really interested in other players that to jump into the mix, because there is some work to do there to flush that out and be synergistic with our owners in planning and with advancing design for construction and some of those key lean operating systems and how we adaptively and agilely plan in how we set up our design for construction and designing to a budget and all those kinds of good things that are part of that backbone of lean operating system as it's interpreted for this industry. So anxious to have more join. Please, if you're interested, please reach out to us. Brian, myself, we need more in the conversation and in this think tank.
Yeah, and I think if you looked at the slide that had kind of because we have to call ourselves founding board just based on the way that the setting up of an organization works and all that stuff, but purposely that's a pretty diverse group. We've got someone from almost all sectors. And Carla and I will both actively say that we missed the boat in one area where we don't have a sub-trade as part of that. And
trade partner,
bonk us on the head for that one. But we do have representation from all across the ecosystem, including academia, which we have two people from the University of Alberta, which are not only academia but also a client, an owner as well. So it's we're trying to hit the areas where it's not just looked at as contractors and builders. We understand that that's important, and that's a good portion of it, but we're missing the boat in other areas when it comes to lean in our ecosystem, and specifically to the owner side and the supplier side, and the design and engineering side is a huge, and we have representation from all of those, which will hopefully round out the way that this organization goes moving forward.
And there's so much to talk about in the realm of prefabrication, modularization, industrialization. Oh my, like there's so much going on there. We're so anxious to help that entire conversation move forward.
Awesome. There's a lot of different plus deltas in there, but I'll pull up one delta that I read there, and it says, I'm still confused about all the different organizations and how they overlap and support each other. And what each group focuses on. I think you mentioned before, Carla or Brian, you guys had kind of like a map or a matrix that shows all the different organizations that are out there, and kind of like what they do. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you can share with the community and we can post it here?
Not right now, but we can and we will, as we are making sure we're being respecting of them and engaging with understanding kind of where our overlaps are. So we will be publishing something in that regard for sure. So it's coming very quickly.
And that's a great delta there, and that's something that the two of us will take back as part of our over the next little phase of time here to make sure that we address that type of a question, because if you have that question, that means 200 other people do as well, or maybe 2,000 people.
I know I did. That's why I pulled it up. I'm like, oh, that's a good one.
That's a great one. That's good. That's great. And it's great feedback to us to make sure that we clarify that.
On that note, is there one brave soul who wants to speak up from the community to give some feedback to Carla? Don't forget to unmute yourself. Okay, well, it looks like we're at time then. Again, thank you, Carla, for sharing, and thank you, Brian, also for coming in to be the Batman to Carla's Robin,
I'm Robin. She's Batman. You could have said, a couple of the new kids on the block, but you didn't do that, so that was good.
We could be the Backstreet Boys. I don't know.
We could. I
need
like
something
both.
else.
I like both, but new kids is good.
Maybe we're the Muppets. Who knows?
Danny, anyways. Donnie, Jordan, John, and Joe. There you go.
You quoted that off the top of your head like that. That's impressive.
I don't have that on a screen anymore. I said in there somewhere that I knew that everyone. So
it's okay, Brian. You're a fanboy. I know it now.
At one point, I was. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank
Wonderful.
you to everyone. And thank you for
Thanks for
everyone for
having us.
attending. Everyone have a very safe and happy last few days of summer. It still is summer until about like November 23rd, or sorry, September 23rd. So hopefully, summer goes out with like a lion for us. And the snow, it can delay as long as it can, if you ask me. I don't mind. But again, go to the LeanYEG LinkedIn page for updates for our next session, and go to our YouTube page. We'll be posting this video as well too. And again, creep the Miro board if you have some additional questions. I put some comments on the tags if you missed something. On the note, thank you for joining our session, and we'll be back again on October 21st.
Right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
folks.
Bye,
Nice to see
everyone.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.